So today we're going to talk about do high quality men exist? High quality men over 40. And let me just say this: I'm not big on the term quality, but I think that generates a conversation. I'm really excited to have a dear friend of mine in the house, Dr. Ray. He's a clinical psychologist. Actually, I want to read his bio for everyone real quick because I love this. He is a trailblazer in integrating psychology with Eastern philosophies, technologies, science, and my favorite, spirituality. So welcome, Dr. Ray.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah.
Trailblazer.
I like that. I like that you're a trailblazer. I feel like I've always called myself a contrarian, and in that sense, I'm a trailblazer in this conversation, particularly for those in midlife. And since we're going to talk about dating relationships and the dynamics go on, let's just start off this conversation with what's your interpretation of a high quality man? What does that mean?
I think a really good way to describe that would be like, what are the first, say, the basic needs or basic attractions? And that might be physicality. It might be that you have a job. It might be that you're great in bed. It could be that we can have, simple conversations. Nothing wrong with that. We have things in common, to live in the same city or at least same state, certain things like that. But high quality for me is more that you're going deeper. That you have to work on yourself, and that your partner is going to bring that up. And then rather than running or blaming, you create a container in that type of relationship where you both can grow. So you both can, I guess you say, create a sustainable, lasting, passionate relationship to where you keep rediscovering each other every day. And the only way to really do that is when you meet a person who's doing the inner work. Because I know that there are some people, you experience them in a way where it's like, it's either kind of boring, or if you go back to a high school reunion, they're still just talking about the same thing, nostalgia, just no interest. So we're always becoming new people every day. And so we're gathering life experiences and we're becoming. So we hope our partner is kind of matching us and growing and sharing not just what happened at work, but how it made him feel, and what they became after that. Rather a victim, I don't want to be like this. So high quality is just a person who's more introspective. They maybe done some therapy. They could be a recovering alcoholic. It's not like you're trying to find the perfect person. It's kind of more a way a person puts the relationship in a container to grow and expand.
So, okay, I want to address two things. So, and this, I just want you to spend just a second. When you use the term container, I think a lot of people in the spiritual realm know what this means, but maybe a significant percentage of my audience doesn't even, may not know what that means.
Really
Can you just kind of elaborate that for just a minute, so I can dive into something deeper after that?
I love that you know your audience. And so container would be like this, as an example. If you meet a person and you start to date that person for a while, like 3 months, 6 months, there's a good chance that if you're having great sex and conversation, you're curious of, is this a committed relationship? Is this a container, or a relationship we're creating where we're no longer dating other people? That would be an example. Or it'd be something like this. When Nicole and I, which that's my girlfriend, we have some challenges. Sometimes it could be when we're in the middle of doing something with one of our kids. So it's not a good time to talk, or it could just be that we are reactive. We want to sit with ourselves for a moment and have clarity before we talk. We've created the container for pause. So we both, in any moment, over the phone or text message to in person, say, I'm going to take a walk. I'll get back to you, because we have this safe container to take pause and not put urgency into the relationship. So there's different containers. So in a relationship container, it could be, how do we communicate when we are stressed? Are we in a committed relationship? To when we go visit each other's family and we're uncomfortable, how do we communicate about that, since it's your dad or mom? You know what I mean? It's like a safe, healthy container so we can grow in that.
Yeah. So, okay, a couple things I want to share with this. first off, the reason why I invited you on, because I think you're a high quality man. Okay. And again, to the extent that what high quality means, I know you to be a man of integrity, a man of intentionality, and most importantly, a man who knows how to communicate. So coming back to the container, I think a couple of things that you brought up was the idea that we make agreements with one another. This is the container we're in. We're intentional in this process. That's the container we're in. And why this is so critically important is that I have observed that in the dating realm, in the dating marketplace, we have a lot of people that are dating ambivalently. They're dating without intentionality. They're just seeking their base level needs of maybe a little bit of companionship and maybe a little bit of connection and maybe a little or a lot of sex without this container. And so I'm really happy you brought this up. And for the ladies that watch me, you know, here's an example. I just want to say, everyone, this is an example of a man who lives, he walks his talk, you know, he lives it. And that's why I brought you on. With that said, after my divorce, Dr. Ray, I was a train wreck. I mean, I was a dysfunctional walking human being. And I was out there in the dating realm, mainly with I don't want to say it was even a cognitive mindset, but I believe that if I was with the right person, I would be healed. I mean, I think I dated with that delusion in mind. And it wasn't until I literally stumbled upon personal development, self-help, and spiritual work did I realize I was the common denominator of all my problems. So when you said earlier about introspective people and doing work, does everybody have to do this, or some people, or, you know, is this something everybody needs to do? I'm curious what your thoughts on that.
So first off, thank you for seeing yourself in me.
Aw.
That was really sweet. I mean, I was really moved by that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Oh, you're welcome.
So as far as the response to the question, how about this?
Okay.
So would you agree, Jonathan, that there's a lot of misinformation out there as far as when it comes to relationship tips?
Oh God, yeah.
And would you say that most of us didn't really come out of like really healthy we didn't have like the best, say, role models as when it comes to communication?
Yeah.
And you probably would agree also that there's the worst problem solving tactics on or skills on TV, right? Really bad, poor reality.
Yeah, married with children.
Yeah. So, but we have been immersed in those type of narratives for a very long time. So they create impressions. And so when we are stressed, when we're stuck in quicksand or our shit or whatever, we all know we are our worst. So whether it's with a grocery store clerk who's rude to us, to someone, you know, cuts us off, something comes out of us. We might yell, we might swear or something. When we're someone on an ongoing basis, we can't run, we can't go anywhere, and we can't always be on. And so whatever is going on inside of us is going to show up in the relationship. It's going to show up. So it's utterly important that you know what's your stuff and what you're feeling and what's going on during a day for you at work or what happened versus your partner showing up and you just projecting it onto him or her.
Yeah.
So whether you want to say it's self-development or seeing a therapist, it's more of this. Do I really know myself when I'm with this person? Am I aware of my breath? Am I noticing that I just had a bad day and that's why I'm bothered with him or her? It's becoming very aware of yourself. So whatever you need to do to get to that space, absolutely everyone. Because
you know, it's interesting. Oh, so the other day I had Dr. Stan Tatkin on, who wrote the book Wired for Love. And I'm aware that I'm an anxious attachment style. Like that's my default. I'd like to think I'm bordering on secure, but I know my default is anxious. And so much so that in my last relationship, and that recently ended, I was very upfront about my attachment style because I'm aware of it. I know that there are times where there's a lack of communication. I go into anxiety. I go into flight, I go into flight mode or excuse me, fight mode in that space. And I was upfront about this to the person I was in relationship with. To me, that's being self-aware, like know thyself. And I suspect, you're a therapist, you work with people, you coach, you help both men and women. I suspect a lot of people aren't even aware that they have issues in how they relate to other people. So, and yet, now I went down a track there that wasn't, I'm going to leave that track alone because I want to go down a different.
Well, can I throw something in there? So these are 3 questions that I have people do this when I would do these authentic relating workshops to get to that space we're talking about. This is something I propose to a couple who has like these Airbnbs where we're going to be doing couple retreats there.
Okay.
And before we got into business with them, we just started the ball rolling. I asked these 3 questions because whether it's someone I'm going to sleep with or do business with, I want to know these things. So regardless if you have an anxious or avoidant or insecure attachment style, it doesn't matter if you know these 3 things. Number 1, what are you like when you are in your shit, or what are you like when you are at your worst? Person might ask, what does that look like? Well, it could be your mom's sick, your son is sick, finances are tight, and you need to do this or that. It's just you're in it. Sometimes there's too many things coming at you. Number 2, how do you know? And I know when you are in your shit. Like, I start to talk fast. I become distant. My tonality changes. I sound frustrated or impatient. Okay. The person knows themselves. We all do.
Yeah.
Number 3, how can I support you when you're in your shit? How can I support you when you're, having those challenges? So the couple we're going to be working with gave me their responses. And we're just starting a new relationship. Now that I know this, moving forward, if something happens, I have everything I need to know to keep moving forward and keep the sustainable relationship. Because they told me straight out what they are like in their worst and what I can do to support them. And so, Nicole and I did the same thing. We know each other really well.
Yeah. So this kind of, actually, I now know what I wanted to say a moment ago. It's like knowing my red flags, if you will. But Mel Stiller just posted the comment, can we sometimes say too much to someone new in our lives? And I want to deviate from the conversation because I'm a big proponent of having deeper conversations early in the dating process rather than waiting until you're attached to a person only to find out that there's a misalignment or that they're not really ready for a relationship. I think most dating today is so hyper focused on attraction. And it works, gets us hooked to a person, but we might get hooked to the wrong person. So what's your take on asking deeper questions early in the dating process versus waiting to share something more personal? I'd really like your take on this.
Okay. So I say everything so much the first time I meet a person. I do not hold back at all.
Okay.
Now,
I'm with you, by the way.
Okay. So, however, if I'm a person who's insecure and I'm asking a lot of questions because I want to make sure I trust that person so I feel safe, that man might feel that woman might feel like it feels more like an interrogation. It feels like you're just trying to gather information. You're not really trying to get to know me. So it's very important that what's shared or questions you ask, it's to create connection, not judgment. So you can just say this person's not a match. And I see that often in the dating world where they're asking questions so they feel safe and so they don't get hurt. And so what they do is they attract people who are unavailable, law of attraction, to where they might show up awkward on the date because they're so hurt. So when Yeah,
There's a
sorry.
line between asking. Oh, so let me be clear. So if you're coming from a place of fear,
Mhm.
then if I'm getting you right, then you're doing yourself a disservice. If it's a way to relate, connect,
That's it.
and gather information too, because I think we do need to
Yeah.
get, how do we get to know someone as we ask questions? It's where you're coming from that matters most. Is that right?
It's more of that space, because if you are at peace, regardless of what happens on this date, it's just a person that you're sharing time with to get to know. And it's okay if it doesn't work out. Now, like if I've heard I mean, I was on a date before, and I remember behind me, somebody was meeting someone for the first time. I heard questions like, so do you want to have kids? To like really big questions,
Yeah.
like big questions to like was trying to avoid a train wreck or whatever you want to call it. And it was strange. And so this is my advice when you meet someone, first, second, or third date. Those three questions
Yeah.
I mentioned, you would hope to know that. And it's an easy way to ask this person, what are you like what are you like when you're in your stuff and you're stressed out? I
Yeah.
just want to know, it doesn't, you don't have to ask it from a place like you're afraid or it's going to bother them. The other one is here's another funny question that I do in these authentic relating games.
Okay.
And I've done it on first dates.
Okay.
So if I were to put all your exes in the same room, what would they say are your greatest strengths and weaknesses? Yeah.
Oh, I got to write that one down.
Okay. Okay. So here's the thing. A person who's lighthearted and knows him or herself is going to take that in a light way and kind of go, wow, yeah, I work too much. I'm a workaholic. To my, or strengths might be, I follow through, I commit. Or the weakness might be lack of self-care. But it's like this person's letting you know, because to me, it's very easy to be attracted to someone that physically looks great. They have a great voice. They like to dance and everything else. But so many of us, particularly if this is for people who are over 40 or 50, you've been down that path already. That
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily lead to success. So be discerning and take your time and get to know this person. And if they're just standoffish, you can go, well, maybe it's just that date, or you can kind of create an excuse or say, I'll wait on his potentiality. Or it might be just that that's how he communicates. And if he is guarded the first 2-3 dates trying to get to know him, that's him. Just trust that's him. And you're not there to be his therapist and pry at him and go into self-doubt. Maybe you ask me questions. It might be just that he hasn't been very introspective. He might be not that what we call high quality person, and not judging, not that he's lower, but it's this. A person who's done some talking to a therapist, or a person who's talked to friends, a person who's open, that's going to be most of the questions are probably going to be pretty comfortable.
So, all right. So are you willing to be a little open here and share like a big thing you and Nicole talked about on your first date? Like something big.
Well, on this one here is kind of interesting because our actual first date was a play date with our kids. So it wasn't really a first date. So that's kind of but very early on, okay, let me go somewhere with this, because when we started going out, and I just moved to a different state. And so I was in transition. It was, it's funny, on that play date, she never runs into him, but the father of her child happened to be running through the park, and we happened to say, here's so-and-so, here's so-and-so. And there was this it was really funny. It was really funny how that happened. But we would talk about things like, I'm kind of drawing a blank here. Like we talk about everything. This is one. So I shared with her that I said, I am still I'm getting to know you, but just know that I have a very close relationship with a woman named Mina. And I was basically telling her that while I am getting to know you, I recently was very close to someone that I love, and I moved out of that state. Just to let her know that there's a possible chance that my friend Mina maybe would have moved up there too, or whatever. But I was letting her know that I like you a lot, but I just moved out of a relationship. And her and I were more friends, but there's still that connection. She was very happy to hear that. She asked more questions about that.
Yeah.
So that would be an example of like,
See, now
yeah,
that's, by the way, that's big, and I really, I think you and I are very similar. We are not unafraid to go the maybe we'll call it the tougher conversations, the deeper conversations. But what you were doing there was being authentic. And to some degree, you're aware that some people might react a certain way to that information, and they could react in a negative way or a positive way. It seems to me Nicole certainly appreciated your authenticity and your transparency. And because, if you're still connected with somebody else, that could, affect how somebody else engages with you. So that took a lot of courage on your part, but also it's great that she didn't see that as a threat, because I'm assuming she didn't see that as a threat.
No, she appreciated it because, again, we were creating a container.
Yes.
And if this container was loose and leaky, she would want to know that, because she's an adult and she could maybe date me casually as I'm getting to know her, but she wouldn't like close herself off from maybe meeting other people. That's why we would want to be very open, honest. And also in that conversation, I was also talking to someone else who was here as well, who was interested in me. And it was a friend of hers, and nothing had, we never went on a date, but I knew the energy was there. She was attracted to me, that, we both were kind of going back and forth. I said, by the way, so-and-so was kind of interested in me as well, I think. And Nicole reached out to her and actually said, get to know, to be like a sister. And, she said that, there was some strangeness there, some awkwardness, because that person was interested in me, but she also was dating someone for a while. So it wasn't like she was available anyway.
Okay.
She was but the point is that I just opened it up like, hey, I'm moving into this new town. I started talking to one person I like, Nicole. There's this other person who I was talking to. And, I just left a person who I'd been involved with the year prior, who I still stay in touch with. And what could have came up with that is this: I don't want to date you until you're clear, or you're not the person for me. I would have been okay with that. Lying or holding back has only got me into trouble.
Well, I would venture to say most of the women hearing this probably say, well, it's rare that you'll get a guy to be that honest, to be that. I think it's really a reflection of your character. And I view you as a man of deep integrity, and you're not alone here. I want to say, my audience sometimes doesn't believe good men exist. They don't believe men of character exist. And I brought you on because I know so many men of character, of integrity, of the capacity to be vulnerable, to be authentic, to be transparent. Actually, really quickly, Dr. Ray, you're familiar with the Hoffman Group, right?
Yes.
So I went to a graduate meeting last week, and there was 12 people. And believe it or not, it was 8 men and 4 women. So, I think women tend to believe men don't do work in the area of personal development, self-help, and spiritual work. And I'm here to say, and I'd like to find out your take on it, I believe there's a significant percentage of men who are doing the work to be introspective, to heal from their wounds, to be better versions of themselves. Is that your experience as well?
Well, I agree with you. And I do have male friends such as yourself who I feel step into that space to where I have attracted many male clients where I thought to myself, if I wanted to open up a matchmaking business, I would have some high quality men, but that's not what I do. So there are a lot of men out there like that. Now, when I say a lot, what if it's only 20% or even 15%? You might say, oh my God, like I'm not going to have a really good chance finding this person. However, if you are the person who's clear with the type of man you want to meet, then it wouldn't really matter, because that person's seeking you too. because they're just not looking for any type of a woman. This is what's interesting in this. Well, so just say if it's a woman who values herself, she has confidence, or she's still working on herself. She wants to go deeper. She wants something rich. She's growing. She's doing a lot of the same things that she'd want this partner to do. Then, of course, like is going to attract like. So, but there's other women who are looking for something that's different. But I feel as though that there's someone out there for someone. There's your match is out there.
Well, I often say that, and this is just a judgment and an opinion on my part. I say roughly 20% of the population has clinical issues. And I say roughly 60% of the population has dysfunctional issues. And then there's probably 20% of the population that are doing the inner work. They're doing the healing. They're studying communication skills. They're learning about quality relationships. And so as to piggyback on what you said, if it's 20 or 15%, I subscribe to that to some degree. Be what you want to attract. And yet, and I'm guilty of what I'm about to say. I think to some degree, we all think we're better than what we are to some degree. And I don't mean that as a delusional thing. I think, we'd like to think we're good. I think most people, most men in particular, but most people are good human beings. They have good hearts. I always say there's good men out there. They're just bad daters.
Yes, absolutely. Most people do not know how to date. In fact, one of the programs I had that I did a while back, it was and part of it was the lead magnet, for people to join the workshop, was the top 10 red flags women could avoid while dating, trying to attract a high quality man. And if you go through these 10 things, it'd be impossible to get in a relationship that was toxic, dysfunctional, and so forth. There's very basic things. And every time I read some of these to women, hands down, every time they say, wow, I wish I knew that. Do you want me to share some of them?
Oh, yeah. I was just thinking of how
real quickly. So it'd be this. Career, career goals, or like what he's doing. So if he doesn't like what he's doing, it's going to show up in a relationship.
Yeah.
So you want someone who basically has something that keeps him alive. He could be a retired person, but he loves gardening. He needs to have some type of passion. Otherwise, he's going to put that onto the relationship where you always have to be on. It's how well does he keep commitments? If it's someone who you see being flaky with this and that, and his son or whatever else, he's going to do that in a relationship. So it's very important to watch what he's doing, see his actions. It's how does he talk about his ex-wife or girlfriend?
Yeah.
If he's saying she's a bitch, she's this or that. Well, this person's hasn't grown or taken any personal responsibility. So he's still in that kind of blaming stage, to where you're going to be the next person that, he talks about to the next, say, relationship he gets into. So it's like, these are certain things you want to listen to even, how well does he take care of his body, like his diet, his habits, and stuff like that. Why is that important? Well, first off, you don't want to bury a man because he's just so unhealthy, but how well a person takes care of himself is going to be a reflection of how important or how you show up in his life, say planning the birthday parties and stuff like that. So it's like more and often that I see more women, maybe it's men too, but they'll see the potential and then try to change him, or feel like that they can compromise, but you can start seeing certain actions. I just shared some of these things here. I don't want to take up the whole time here.
Oh, no. Well, it's interesting because I think of red flags. There's kind of character red flags that really should be deal breakers,
Yes.
And to me, a red flag means ask more questions. I'll be candid with you. I saw red flags in my previous relationship, but I turned them into green flags. Not character issues. It's just some slight misalignment between the two of us. And I think to some degree, a relationship is a container to, for me, what it did was I pushed past some of my judgments. I pushed past some of my my expectations and really practiced the closest thing to unconditional love I'd ever experienced. And I learned so much about myself in this experience. And so while they weren't red flags per se, you know, I went in with high hopes and it didn't work out. And that's kind of the nature of life too. Sometimes you can give it your all. Another person could give it their all and it still not work out. So just to piggyback on something else.
Can I share something? Just
yeah,
I hope
please.
I don't like throw you off here, but
No.
I'm working with a man currently who he is very, say, sexual and he likes affection and so forth.
Okay.
And he is in a relationship where he's been with this woman for 7 years. And she has straight out told him that I give you sex to like as if it's an obligation.
Oh,
And he has shared this to the way she communicates.
okay.
To even where she's kind of cold. And then he's also shared her background where she grew up Mormon and she was shunned and her sexuality was shunned and everything else. I said, are you hearing what you're saying here? Are you hearing us? You're wanting something from a person who's never even been that. Maybe she'll get there, but she hasn't done therapy. And you're coming to me. I want to make sure that we're not working together with the expectation she's going to become a freak in the bedroom. She is so far from that to the point where she's saying, you know, having sex with men is an obligation.
Oh, wow.
That's a pretty big red flag.
Yeah.
You see where I'm coming? But I'm bringing this up because people will hear this, but they're so desperate, they'll bypass that.
Yeah. I think we as humans can gaslight ourselves, you know? And I'm now certainly in my own life, I'm more aware of the importance to really stick with my must-haves in relationship and be very clear on what those are. You know, we have a question that did pop in, and I want to offer, if anyone has a question, write the word question, then post the question thereafter for Dr. Ray or myself. Mel just wrote, how can we have honest relationships without being judgmental?
I could respond that right away.
Yeah, I know. I'd like you to.
So I like to use the word discernment.
Yeah.
So, of course, if I were, well, it came up. Before my current relationship, I was with someone that was 17 years younger than me. And no, I'm not one of those older dudes going, I went for her because she was younger. This is someone who is into spiritual work, who spoke this on the same level. Yeah. But when it came to life experiences and to say, be more mothering towards my son, she didn't have it. And I wasn't looking for a mother. It was more mother instincts and the ability to be able to show up and so forth. And I noticed that it was like I was taking care of two kids. Now, was I judging or was I being discerning?
Yeah.
Okay. And if I were judging, isn't that good judgment? Hey, I'm going to judge this. This person's younger. She's on a different path. She has more life experiences to have. And I'm older and this is what I prefer. I'm judging this might not be for me, or I'm discerning this is not, for me. I think it's very important.
Well, I think judgment is when I think, and by the way, I am my whole coaching practice is centered around being discerning, being way more discerning and not allowing chemistry and attraction alone to be the driving force of the relationship. I think of judgment is if I think of someone as being bad for who they are or a behavior, if I classify that as bad instead of just it is, like what you're sharing is, oh, this person may not be aligned for what I need in relationship. If you went on to make the judgment would be they are bad for that. That to me is the kind of the line where judgment is has a charge to it in comparison to discernment.
So it's kind of like you look at it as a character flaw in a negative way, or even name call. Yeah. I didn't realize that. Like for me, I know that we have to judge whether or not it's safe to cross the street. You know what I mean? Things like that. So I kind of have a very neutral way of looking at it. But I also know the other approach where a person's looking at you and and saying, because you did this, you're a horrible person.
Yeah.
Or also saying, I know why you didn't call me back, because you are blah, blah, blah. So, yeah.
Well, I think, we're also in an environment in our society where there's almost micro judgments happening every second of the day. You and I both have a social media presence. There are people that will comment on something that we say in an accusatory fashion, in a judging way. And we recognize that, you and I would recognize that someone's projection of what's going on for them, but they're projecting it onto us. But I do believe that because of social media, we are bombarded with judgments, not maybe about ourselves, but certainly about what's happening in the world. And I do believe that has it's like tainted us, or it's like an infection. It's like I think it's made us, I think humans can be a little less compassionate than when they once were. Just an observation I have anyway. Catherine has a question.
Okay.
What's your advice for someone who is burnt out from dating apps and is 40 and wants a family? Oh, I love this question. Dr. Ray, are you open to taking that one?
What's your advice for someone who's burnt out from dating apps and is 40 and wants a family? Well, what I don't know is if this is a man or woman. It's a
woman, Catherine.
And the family is to have children.
I'm assuming that.
So where I'm not sure how to answer it. It would be where, like, you want to have your own baby or meet a man who has a child, and so it's just more that, now I know women. A lot of women are having children in their 40s now. Yeah. So I wasn't really sure, but I know sometimes it can be more difficult.
Well, I think where I would like to focus on is the burnout piece, because, and by the way, just for the record, if I didn't state this clearly, Dr. Ray's in a really fantastic relationship with Nicole. You post quite a bit about your lives together on social media. You both have children. You're integrated into each other's lives. You didn't meet on a dating app. Would you be open to share where you met?
Facebook.
Yeah. Well, and I suspect Facebook was a friendly way of the two of you, how you two met. It was in a friendly environment. You weren't strangers, to one another.
Well, Jonathan, I'm going to share something. Then I imagine, particularly like women, they'll go, "Oh my God, it sounds so romantic. It was meant to be." And go, I want that. But this is TV and film. They do this and they put that in your head like it's got to be organic or whatever. Yeah. So I originally met her in 2010 at Lightning in a Bottle Festival with 20,000 people, and I didn't know it. Out of 20,000 people, I happened to take a picture of her. When we were dating, I was cleaning out my hard drive, and I went, "What?" I sent the picture. I said, is this you? She said, yes. Okay. We had met and didn't even know it. So.
Oh, wow. So you guys actually met 10 years earlier, and you just happened to send this to her through Facebook, and it started a conversation.
Oh, no. We are in the healing community. Okay. And so we know a lot of the same people. That's why she was comfortable of connecting with me, particularly because I was moving into a new town. I wanted to start doing workshops. So I was actually going to team up with her. So it was more like, hey, I do the same thing you do. We met that way. But then we started like becoming interested in each other in a more romantic way. And then like 2-3 months into that, I happened to be going through my computer and found the picture.
Oh, got it.
And I went, hey, we met actually. And that kind of tripped us out. So, But
that's a great story.
Yes. So,
by the way, we have another question really quickly, but share what you're going to share.
Well, I want to respond to that thing here. So,
and by the way, thank you, Julianne, for the $10 super sticker. We really appreciate it. All the monies that we collect from super stickers, super chat goes to a scholarship fund in the name of my son, Connor Asley. He's my son who passed away over 5 years ago. In his honor, we donate to causes like the Hoffman Process, Insight Institute, and Seeds of Love. So, Julianne, thank you for the $10 super sticker.
I'm going to answer this question, but I want to talk about the burnout. If any person is in a space of being jaded, I don't think they should go out there and date. That will show up. Okay.
Yeah.
So the question is this, to ask yourself, like if I were to go through that process, it would be, what is it that I'm burned out about? The results, how I feel afterwards. In other words, some people, when they go out on a date, they become very disappointed on 1, 2, 3 dates, while other people are excited and saying, I'm meeting new people. It's not a match, but this is fun. So I'm curious about the approach of going out there. Oh, if a person is not intentional, your language, and discerning, then you'll just go out with a lot of different people and be disappointed. So the way to use an app, and this is how I specifically share this with my clients, was this.
Okay.
First off, I know as women, particularly like if you have really attractive pictures on there, the moment you just put yourself out there, you get like 50 strange like messages from all kinds of men. Okay. I know you have to get through that crap. Okay. But let's just say you finally have people you're talking to. The conversations should be like this. They say hello. They should have read something in your profile. I'm interested in this. Just some type of like, they're not like looking at your picture and said, what's up? The what's up? No, you want a little bit more substance. Okay. Bottom line, you might make an excuse for them. Oh, maybe they're just not talkative. No, this is the greatest thing about an app is recognizing that I don't have to be like a people pleaser. I don't have to worry about someone's feelings. So no, so someone who actually is interested in you and highlights some of the things that you maybe said. The other part is maybe 2 messages at the most, where it's like, hello, it seems like a real person. It's not a bot.
Yeah.
Get them on a phone call. Have a phone call for about 15 to 30 minutes. That's it. If there's a good vibe, then plan the date.
Yes.
That's it.
I'm a big proponent of that.
The rule, two messages, 1 phone call, then the date maybe. Don't waste your time.
I have my rule. Just, you might be interested in my rule. It's called 3, 2, 1, 3. And that is no more than 3 email exchanges, if you're using like a match.com, should lead to 1 or 2 telephone calls. So that's the 2. And that should lead to 1 date. And it shouldn't take more than 3 weeks. I mean, and that's really stretching it.
I agree with you. I know you're saying, I know. I endorse that one. In
other words, the first date should happen within 3 weeks of that first email. Couple exchanges via email, 1 or 2 phone calls, and the second phone call could just be coordinating the date. Get the date all done. But people will spend, I mean, we could go on a diatribe of how people will spend months, if not years, having a text relationship and never meet a person. So let's go back to Julianne's question, because I'd like your take on this. Is a 51-year-old man who has never been married, never had kids, a huge red flag?
So I didn't have a child until I was 46 years old. And it happened in a very strange way.
Yeah.
So my son showed up when he's 5.5 months old. So I didn't know I got someone pregnant.
Yeah.
So I was single. I was 46, but I had the same consciousness I have right now. Big difference. So I wasn't playing around. I just happened to be single because I'm happy by myself. Yeah. I love life. I love teaching. It had nothing to do with that. I had issues with being an intimate or committed relationship. So I just want to throw that piece out there. Yes. If the 51-year-old man has had long-term relationships, 5 to 10 years, if he talks about it in healthy ways, like he grew from it, if he seems he's happy, if he shares that, I just haven't had kids before, and it just didn't happen. To me, that sounds pretty reasonable. He maybe has been just living his life a different way. Now, it's clear when you communicate to a man where he sounds like he wants to avoid responsibility, that he has been basically searching for himself for a very long time. And he talks about relationships being a drag. That's a red flag. And what you're seeing, say 51, never being married and not having kids, is a byproduct of that. You can, instead of listening, like looking at the cover of the book, 51,
never married,
you can listen to how he communicates. Because if he has, just say he maybe was a late bloomer to where he had alcoholic parents. He entered therapy to where he learned to have a relationship with himself at the age of 37 years old, to he embarked on different other things in life. He might be an amazing man. It really depends on what he has become and how he can match your energy.
And by the way, thank you for sharing your story. That's very vulnerable. And for those that don't know Dr. Ray, I just want to say this. This man is a dedicated father to his son. I witness on how much you share personally about your relationship with your son. You're an incredibly devoted father. I mean, quite more so than I ever was at that stage, because I was going through the midst of a divorce. And how that circumstance changed your life, and it was this great blessing. I know you've spoken that many a times, that you didn't anticipate when you got that knock on the door, but the byproduct of that is amazing. And just to piggyback on something, one of my oldest friends, he didn't get married until I think he was 46 years old, and didn't have his first child until he was 49. And he was a man who had multiple long-term relationships, but he had codependency issues, and he went to Codependence Anonymous. He started to do therapy in his late 30s and realized that, a byproduct of all of his relationship experience was because he didn't have good role models growing up, and he had some trauma growing up. So it wasn't until he became a person who's really become more introspective, started to do work, was he ready to and then he eventually got married, and now he has children. It's kind of the joke between us, because all of our children are grown up and adults, and he still has young children. So Julianne, I hope Dr. Ray answered your question. Here's the bottom line. I think this is, I know Dr. Ray would agree, life's a journey, and each person's experience is, theirs. The most important thing I would say in this case is, are the two of you aligned with a relationship future? Does this person want maybe marriage or living together or be in full commitment or not? That would be the most important question I'd want to get answered. And that might dispel the red flag, because a red flag simply means ask questions. If it's a deal breaker, then it's a deal breaker.
I really like your response, what you said about your friend also. Became a higher quality man, did the work. And he's older. And what you just said also, too, is that the 51-year-old man, if he's meeting you where you are now, meaning that he's 51 years old, he has no baggage, actually. That's a good thing. You know what I mean? He went to a couple of Tony Robbins workshops. Great. And he's now ready. How awesome.
I agree. Okay. So, but as we get to the close of this, I have two big questions to ask you. Women always say, where do we meet quality men? So where are all the quality men hanging out?
So similarly to myself and how I met Nicole, is I am very much involved in like a spiritual healing community. So whether that would be church or going to a Joe Dispenza workshop, to he's an author, to going in. So first off, the first thing would be this is, am I a high quality woman?
Yeah.
Now, when you ask yourself that, I know we don't like that label high quality, but am I comfortable with myself? Am I comfortable being asked any question? Am I transparent? Am I open with my sexuality? How authentic am I? I would go down the punch list of what you want out there with that man within yourself. Start with that. Because when you start with that, you become that. You're also going to be able to get clear with the type of man I like would probably be over here. He'd be doing these things. So if you're like literally looking for like a physical place to go, it would be a man who's doing those things you're doing, with yourself. That's why I mentioned that higher quality men have a tendency to maybe say do yoga or go to the gym. They're listening to podcasts where they're learning information. They're just, they have a zest for life. They're just not, I wake up, I go to my job, I come home, I sit on my couch, open up a beer. They want much more of life than that.
Now that I am my relationship ended and I find myself back in the dating marketplace, although I'm not actually doing anything about it yet. I'm making a conscious effort. I work from home. I can be isolated in that regard. I'm making a conscious effort. I'm going to spiritual workshops. I just did a retreat last weekend. I'm connecting with people that there's a wellness group here just a mile away from where I live, and I'm going to join them. And there's yoga and there's meditation and sound bowls. I mean, these are just things that interest me. And
well, ladies, listen, he's telling you right now, we both are. See?
Yeah.
And your high quality male friends, they do a lot of these same things, right?
Yeah, the type of friends I have, and I have a variety of different types of personality male friends, but and to that extent, and I've gone, as I shared earlier, when I went to the Hoffman graduate class, there were more men there than there were women, so I've noticed that even in these meditation classes, there are a lot of men there. So I don't feel alone in that regard. So, okay. What is a high quality? Wait, man, let's go back to Mary Jana's question. What do high quality men like most about women? And I'm going to ask it twofold. What are they looking for in women, and what do they most like? And I think you'd be perfect for answering this question.
Sure. So this is for someone like myself who is semi-retired. I'm debt-free, and I pretty much have a very drama-free life and I just have a really good life. I want a woman who I'm dating to be able to take personal responsibility. And what I mean by that is where if stuff is coming up for her in our relationship, that not only will she talk to me about it, but she has her morning rituals or a way in which she can self-reflect so she can take responsibility of what's coming up for her so we can continue to grow and expand. And because otherwise, if I'm in a relationship where we're having the same conversation about the same thing, when I can't do anything, I would feel stuck. And so for me, that's like a big thing. It's where that's the overarching reason why I like women. I have a lot of female friends who do the work because we look at life differently every day. We're growing. So I'm more attracted. And so when I'm in an intimate relationship with a woman, I don't want it to be where I have to carry a load in which is not mine. Yes. That's why I mentioned it with, I have a son. I have a son. I have things. I've created a life, not controlling in a way, but I do walk my talk. So I want to make sure that I'm not carrying someone's load, because that will turn into resentment and I won't be having fun.
So, okay, I have a question, but I want to share with you just not a philosophy, but a model that I have in the dating realm. We oftentimes think of I call it the relationship iceberg, and above the waterline is attraction. And what I mean is that's the first thing we see. We see if we're attracted to someone, and we call that chemistry most often. Below the waterline, I talk about shared values, lifestyles that are blendable, and more importantly, what you've been describing is emotional maturity and relationship skills. The tricky part of that piece is it's not like you can meet someone on the first date and get that particular question answered. But I have a feeling you learned that very quickly with Nicole, her level of emotional maturity and her relationship skills. If in your memory banks you recall, was there anything that you noticed very early on that gave you a clue that she has emotional maturity and relationship skills?
Absolutely. Well, first off, that's why I brought up prior to what you're asking now about reflecting on yourself. And am I these things? So I have deep confidence in myself and how I vibrate, to where I have a tendency to just attract that. Like, I ran into Gary Zukav Sunday, and
you did?
Yeah, and Neil Donald Walsh the next day. That's an example of where we had a great conversation, and in the middle of like editing my book right now, and I was going to get them to try to endorse it, but I had not submitted it to them. I just happened to run into them physically.
Okay, got it. I'm jealous, by the way.
so I just know that that's how my life is. So I wouldn't expect anything different. And so it was there. So when we met, we were laughing our asses off. We can just, in fact, we started talking about David Data. We just started talking about different things, and and so we just went right there. But here's a very important thing for me as well, which specifically has to do with Nicole. She's in New Jersey, so she and my father's from New York, so we have the same kind of back east humor.
Okay.
Well, she loves sarcasm. She likes to joke around a lot. She laughs a lot. She has so much joy in her eyes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm attracted to light. And so for me, when a person's doing their work, somehow they see life in a very loving and positive way.
Yeah.
There's hope. And somehow I see it, I feel it. They're attracted to me and I'm attracted to them. And so I saw her joy. We were laughing like a lot right away. And it wasn't because necessarily what I was saying was funny or what she was saying was funny. We both had that humor inside. So when we came together, we just brought those parts out of ourselves. You have to become that which you seek. You have to become what you seek.
Well, let me ask you a question. This just popped up now. Do you believe that when we connect, whether we call them soulmates or, different terminology, I do believe that when we meet a potential partner, okay, someone where you're going to go on this journey, whether it's a short-lived journey or it's till the, end of each other's time, there's a resonance that happens. There's a vibe, there's a connection that isn't based on lust and it isn't based on limerence. It's almost an intangible. Is that kind of how you felt when you met her? There was this intangible vibe between the two of you?
Not necessarily. Again, because like I can say I saw that in Mina also, my ex-girlfriend and friend, to other people I meet.
Well, that's why I said the time at length doesn't count. So
yeah. So it's just more like where I live now as well. There's a lot of lit up people. That's why I moved here. So there's a lot of fame. Like where I live, there's a lot of famous authors. So it's just, again, well, here's it. If there's a person who's going through hardship, who's depressed, who has had a lot of struggle in life, or is burned out, or just jaded about relationships, it's going to show up in communication. They're not going to be light-hearted.
Got it.
Yeah.
No, that's what you just shared. And I've gone on dates in my life where I could be sitting across a person and I could literally visually see every man who's ever hurt her standing right behind her. It was an energy. It wasn't like not literally, but figuratively. I think there's something about doing the work brings out our light. It brings out our joy. It brings out our happy place. And those, in the case of what the two of you, is you got a chance to see each other from the heart-centered space and not the armor that oftentimes is associated when you're feeling burnt out and jaded, burnt out on dating apps and burnt out on the whole process and worrying about whether or not they've been married or have children, all that stuff. I think I'm just reminded of, and I'm saying this out loud because I need to hear this myself, is to come back to beginner's mind. And let go of the past. The past is prologue. How can I show up merely as the best version of myself?
Absolutely. You mentioned about how that light was already there. So a lot of people project onto her and I their fantasies to saying we are the perfect couple by maybe how we look, that we're both coaches, we both have boys close in age, different things like that. The way we communicate, we're very alike in many ways. However, what comes to that also is our independence. So 2 days ago, her and I had a conversation, and we went to a circus, and I forgot what it was, but my son was struggling with allergies and a few other things. And I didn't seem like I was in a good mood. And also coming from LA and seeing the best performers and then coming here to Ashland, Oregon, it's so different than, say, the entertainment there where you get the best in the world, where you have people here. They're talented, but it seems more like amateurs compared to what I've seen.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
So she says, sometimes you see, I just want to make sure you're happy. You seem critical and you talk about these things. And I'm like, it's just more matter of fact. But it led to a conversation of where that one of the reasons why sometimes people want to get out of a relationship is because they don't want to hear complaints about them, about how they are, particularly if you get really used to living by yourself. You don't have to hear that. And if you're a, say, high quality man or a woman, you also don't have challenges having sex. You have friends. You could do whatever you want. So you can get really comfortable being single.
Yes.
And when I brought that up to her, I said, I go, it's if there was a shadow, is I would work on relationships, but also there was always that part of me that was like, fuck it, because I'm happy to be by myself. I'm not struggling, and I don't feel loneliness. And Nicole said, that's the same with me. And she said, I would be happy anyway. And I said, well, that's why I love you. And we have this knowingness that sure, we can thrive without each other. And that is also the light in our heart that brings us together and brought us together. Yeah. So we never go into a space of like something bad's going to happen if we break up. Therefore, there's no resistance. There's no tension. We're like,
and you're not going to cling to something from a place of desperation or scarcity or whatnot. I'm going to wrap up, but I want to share something that you might get a kick out of. You remember my previous relationship with Sherry, right? Yeah. Dr. Sherry Myers. And that ended 6 years ago. In that period of time before I met Marraige, I actually, for the first time in my life, that 5-year period where I was single, I actually learned how to enjoy my own company.
Yes.
Like I was like, wow, I actually like my own company. So I operated from I probably operated from a very codependent energy my entire life, even to some degree, believing I need someone to love me so I can feel good about myself. I am very clear. I don't need someone to love me for me to feel good about myself. I don't need someone to be with me to feel good about myself. I do want a partner in my life. I'm very clear. But that space in and of itself is so freeing. It's so empowering. And I think it's attractive. So, I'm sharing this for everyone. When you can truly learn to enjoy your own company, that's when people ask, when am I ready? That's when you're ready.
If you can't be with yourself, then who wants to be with you? Or that it's going to be kind of that same thing. It will eventually show up. So meaning that like whatever, when I'm with a person or I meet a person who has taken some time to be with herself, wherever we are, like whether we're seeing a show or there's something doesn't work out, we get a flat tire, because they have spent time in that space to sit with themselves and their emotions, they usually turn anything, even challenges, into a positive thing.
Yeah. So, Dr. Ray, did we answer the question, do high quality men over 40 exist? Do you think we answered it?
I think so.
Okay. Well, my friend, thank you so much for joining me on my channel. You have your wisdom, your heart, your presence, they are all things that I just, I'm just grateful to be in your orbit. Thank you again for being on the channel and sharing your wisdom with everybody.
I appreciate your heart and how open you are with your journey as well.